We're going to start an interview here in a little bit, so just hold on for 2 seconds. Thank you.
Dang it, I
We'll
can't.
talk about Forward Cider.
Chicago, Illinois.
Oh, the delay is just ridiculous.
Is it? About 20 seconds after I put that out.
I can't upload this to the Wi-Fi here, and maybe that's why.
At least it's working.
Oh, forget it.
All right, we got some people rolling.
All right, let's do it.
Nice.
So we're doing a little bit of CiderCon, or post-CiderCon, it's almost either CiderCon interview.
We're in the trade room space right now, and they have completely deconstructed everything almost instantaneously, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, we're bunkered down here.
So, we want to do an interview, and you can introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your brand.
Yeah, so I'm Alec, Steinmetz. I'm with Forward Cider. I'm launching this brand in Chicago in the next 2 months here. So I'm a Midwesterner, and I was making cider out on the East Coast for a few years, and now I'm coming back to the Midwest and going to launch the brand pretty soon here locally.
Awesome. What got you into cider, I guess, is probably a good starting point.
So 6 years ago, I was interested in craft brewing, and I reached out to a few breweries just to get an apprenticeship, an internship, and kind of get my feet wet in the industry. And I sent out like 60 plus emails across the country, and the one that was receptive to it was the one in my college town in Kenosha, so it was just right over the border. So it was a small nano brewery. They were open for under 6 months, and they just needed someone to kind of clean kegs, just kind of do cellar
basics,
work,
man.
but really small. Yeah, like we're producing 50-gallon batches at the time, so super small system. So I was doing that for a few years, and then went out to Telluride, Colorado, started getting my feet wet in like the sales and distribution side of things.
Sure.
My brother lives out there, so I spent the summer out there. And then came back to Milwaukee, and Siebel, right here in Chicago, is a good platform and good education base to get brewing knowledge. So I was brewing for a few years, and then an opportunity arose to make cider out on the East Coast in Richmond, Virginia, and I knew that I wanted to open up a startup in the future, and to be a part of a startup and learn that process and the development and getting a product to market, I knew it would be beneficial. So I moved down there. I guess that was about 2.5, 3 years ago. I was there for a year and a half.
Busy dude.
and then I went up to Graft, and that was really cool. So the past year I was in the Hudson Valley making sour cider, and then finally made my way back to the Midwest. So
We got some deconstruction going on behind us, but
Hi, Mikey, by the way. Mikey's saying hi. Hi, Mikey.
oh, hi,
Hey,
Mike.
Mike.
But yeah, so first question before any of that. Being a beer brewer and then cider, do you need the beard? Always.
Oh,
right?
certainly. I mean, I'm a lot more attractive with the beard. So I shaved it down about 3 weeks ago, and I was a bit nervous that it wouldn't be back in time. So yeah, it came back, and unfortunately, I forgot the beard oil before. That was the whole plan this morning. I'd all like oiled it up at 9 a.m., but these two guys had too much fun last night, so we postponed this interview. So now I was off the game. I only got 4 ounces of cider left to share. So
don't worry, Mikey said you are more attractive with a beard. You can Thanks, Mikey.
So you said you worked with Graft for a while?
Yeah, so the last year, it was cool. Kyle and Sarah Scherer, they opened up Millstone a number of years ago, and they really were leaders with natural cider down in Maryland. And then so they opened up another venture out in the Hudson Valley. And there, so coming from the brewing world and then going to Richmond, I took a lot of approaches that a brewer would. And so we were using dessert variety. It was no focus on the fruit at all, and it was all like adding hops and ingredients that maybe would express. It just the attention wasn't on the fruit. It was more on like other ingredients and adjuncts like a brewer might take.
Yeah, for people, that's more of like a modern style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So going up to New York, even though it was dessert varietals, it was focused on natural fermentation, which was really a great learning experience because that's what I identify with more is dry, natural, minimal intervention cider. So that year was really a great learning experience, and what they do as far as just marketing and branding and packaging. They're leaders in the industry, especially the volume that they're producing and the reach that they have.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, even before I saw their cans, I was like, wow. Man, that design was crazy.
And that's what attracted me to their brand. It's popping colors, and they got a story behind it. And but before that, let me take a step back. And when I was down in Virginia, it was, the learning curve coming from, so the cider that I'm making is much more similar to winemaking than it is to brewing. And it took me a few years to identify that and figure that out. So, and when you're using dessert,
Cheers, what you guys
yeah,
want?
yeah. No,
We're
problem.
switching
One
chairs.
sec.
See, you want nice cushion water?
I'll take those.
You don't want that
It's
hard
been a
one.
long week.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. But yeah, so I mean,
pleasure.
so I suppose these are all like cider enthusiasts, or they know
Yeah,
a little bit about it. So I
most
don't want,
people are cider enthusiasts.
yeah, so I'm glad that you covered like modern cider where you're using dessert varietals, and a lot of the time when you go completely dry with that, so fermented to complete dryness, 0 grams of sugar, you don't have enough structure, acid, or
Sure.
come on.
Just sit back a little
Come on
bit.
in.
Sorry.
Come on in.
How do we
We
look?
need all
Do we look good? Am I too tall now?
Your head's cut off.
Oh man, I don't like when my
You
head's
see your
cut off.
nose and mouth.
Oh.
There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here today.
So if you don't have acid or tannin, more importantly tannin in my case,
Right.
if once you go completely dry and you don't have anything to create structure with, then you have to add that sweetness on the backside.
Sure.
Or add those ingredients. So I guess my approach, or not I guess, I know the approach that I'm taking is create a product with 0 grams of sugar, like the one I'm drinking here. Arlo is a brilliant beverage with bittersweet, bitter sharp fruit, enough tannin that they can go dry with it without it being a flabby or no structure or character in it.
Sure.
So really the approach that I'm taking is focusing on the apples, the proper cider fruit. So, like the brief rundown, going back to modern cider, dessert, culinary fruit that you would find in the grocery store, Red Delicious, Gala, Fuji.
Typical.
All the
Yeah,
comments, yep.
exactly. The ones that you get in your school lunch. And then there's ones that packed one this morning actually. Great tasting, but they don't make a great cider, the one that I want to be producing. So I flew over to Europe and I created some relationships. So I'm sourcing French bittersweet fruit,
wow.
and I'll be doing all French oak fermentations and really just trying to perfect my craft ultimately.
Very good. And where's the name? It's called Forward Cider. Here, I'll pop this up again too, if you can see.
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So forward,
With this sexiness here.
there,
Fingers on
yeah,
it.
Man, it's still sexy. Look at
yeah.
that.
Thanks,
There you go.
It's hot.
The origin of it is so I'm a Wisconsinite, and the intention was that I was going to open up in the capital of Madison, and
sure.
the state's motto is forward, and so I want to be a Wisconsin-centric brand at the time, and as I was spending time in New York and New York City more, I want to be. It really opened my eyes to being a part of a bigger market, larger market, especially like the product that I'm developing is a bit more niche.
Yeah. Sure.
So I knew I wanted to come back to the Midwest, but then Chicago was was a natural decision for me. So I kept Forward because it speaks to where I foresee and I want to take the cider industry. The modern cider segment is growing, but this is what I believe in, and I think this agenda will help move the industry forward.
Yeah.
So.
And we had someone ask, Angelica, hey, how you doing? She said, why are you sourcing your fruit all the way from France?
Yeah,
a good
so
question.
yeah, it's a great
Ooh,
question
that's a
actually.
good question.
Yeah. So the reason I'm doing that is the infrastructure in the U.S. We don't have proper cider fruit that has the structure and the tannin that you would need to ferment completely dry and have body.
So let's blame Prohibition.
So
basically.
Prohibition,
Yep,
exactly.
yep.
Yeah. So during Prohibition, the government identified these trees because they weren't for eating; they were only for making cider. And so they came in and they went on the orchards and burnt them and chopped them down to the ground. So unfortunately, I have to go across seas to find them, and they have a surplus over there. So fortunately for me, I have access to them. But ultimately, my goal is to work with orchards in Chicago and in Illinois, start grafting. My parents have some property a little north of Milwaukee, 20 acres, but getting the proper cider fruit. I don't want to. Yeah. No, but the idea is to just getting the right fruit, and then that's what it takes. Like a winemaker would never use grocery store grapes to make cider, or to make wine.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my approach to it is more of a winemaker, even though my background was in brewing.
Sure. I mean, how's that transition been? Brewing and then cider
It
making?
took me a few years.
Yeah, it's different.
Like,
I mean,
it took me a few years because
blending and all
Unfortunately,
that is very difficult.
yeah, I wish like the viewers were able to taste the ciders I had. what I was making in Virginia, which were fine. I shouldn't say fine. They were decent ciders for the tools I had to work with, I suppose. And nothing about, I don't have a knock against modern cider. I think it's, it's important to have a variety of ciders because a lot of people do enjoy those
Just
ciders.
like beer or anything else, you need that variety just to capture.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't want to come off. It's not pretentious or anything like that. It's just the approach that I want to take is in 0 grams of sugar because a large part is high residual sugar ciders out there. So
Yeah, Angelica wants to know what varieties in particular are hard to find here.
Man, she's your
Yeah,
apples, so I like this.
So it's really the bittersweet and the bitter sharps, and just with the tannic backbone. So in my blend, it's Michelin, Benet Rouge, Méridor.
French sounding apples.
Yeah, and well, it took. I had to Google Translate this too,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
it rolls off the
But
tongue.
it's essentially it's the apples that have that tannin structure. There's a lot of like during this conference you run into a lot of these orchardists and producers that have been growing these for years, but it's in such a small supply that producers like me that don't have orchards already established, I don't have access to.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of akin to the hops wars, going on
Exactly,
with beer.
yeah.
There's so many hops and everyone's trying to get it. So if you have a small amount, everyone's still trying to source these apples to blend and to add the tannins or whatever it might be.
Exactly,
It's super hard to do. So that's where we're at in America.
And
such.
unfortunately, I think it's a lot easier to grow hop vine. I mean, they sprout right out of the ground, and trees take 5, 6, a decade long.
Yeah, that's if you have a
it's a
good
long-term
season when you're
process.
grabbing
Exactly.
the apples. It's like there's so many things at play.
Yeah, 100%. So, but essentially, yeah, the tannic, the fruit is what I'm seeking, but that's just my approach.
Sure, right. Well, I guess other than that, I mean, we'll talk about CiderCon a little bit. So CiderCon is in Chicago this year, just kind of getting wrapped up. There's a toast going on. We'll get to there in a little bit, but kind of wanted to get your mindset on what you did at CiderCon, what you feel about it.
One of your
to our-
favorite sessions
yeah.
as well, and kind of what the topic might be.
Yeah,
and what
cool.
you got from it a little bit.
Yeah, so I got in Monday night. So right now I'm in Milwaukee, as I mentioned to you guys. So yeah, I'm from Milwaukee. I'm living up there right now while I establish this business. So I got in Monday night, and I met up with a buddy at the Northman. So it's just a local cider bar and one of the best in the country, if not the world.
Yeah, definitely. If you're in Chicago, check out the Northman.
Yeah, the
You have
Northman's
to.
where
Must.
that. Brian and Ambrosia have created a program second to none.
Absolutely
really.
killing it, yeah.
Geniuses in the space.
And then it really kicked off that night. I was enjoying cider with my buddy Ben, and then Tuesday was the Chicago Food and Cider Tour. So we hopped on a bus and we went all throughout Chicago, stopped at a few restaurants and other cideries, and we would be pairing foods and with the ciders. So it's really informative, but ultimately it's a good time to network with other producers. Like that's essentially what this is for me.
Yeah.
Because you sit in these panels and it's good education, but it's fun to see familiar faces. It's still a small community, and it's growing. But like, I follow a lot of these people on social media. I see them throughout the country. During the year. So it's more of just the networking for me.
Of course.
I can sit in a panel and I can get some good takeaways, but it's really who I'm sitting next to and like developing those relationships. Because in 3 weeks, when I have a question, I can call these people, and I think that's what the industry does so much. So well compared to the other ones. The craft brewing industry was very similar to that, but it's so large.
Now it's too large.
It's
right,
so
yeah.
large.
And sub-segmented.
Exactly.
And then,
And so what cider is, it's just like a lot of these folks are just living out on orchards and they're just doing it, but it's what people love to do, and you can't really duplicate that in other industries. It's more competitive. So, but to answer the question, which my favorite was, I think the still cider. The panel.
that
So
one today, right?
yeah. So so Sunstrom Ciders, Farnham Hill, Open Fire. Open Fire.
Open Fire, yeah.
Yeah, out of
like
they're
that.
out of
Open Fire.
Washington. Yeah,
Yeah, very
really
good
nice stuff.
Very good stuff.
And then Zaffa, that wine company
Yeah.
out of. And sorry if
That
I'm
one I wasn't
pronouncing-
very familiar
Yeah,
with.
so but
yeah.
they do. I know they do some work with Shaxbury, so like they've been on my radar, but just from social media. So, but it's cool to try other ciders, and I'm trying to create and launch with the still cider.
Right.
And it's more in the vein of winemaking.
Sure.
So that was really a nice session to attend.
Yeah, I think from our end, obviously, we attended the modern cider event, which we really liked. That was interesting though because we saw a lot of the apple growers were in there too, which obviously they've been to all those events, but they were kind of having their discussions too. But yeah, modern cider.
Heated,
Yeah, well, and I
a
was
little
gonna-
heritage conversation,
So,
a
and-
little modern. It was
and
a
so-
very
yeah.
interesting blend. But I found that fascinating.
Yeah, and so I find myself like right in the middle.
you're in the
because
middle, yeah.
I worked at Craft, and Kyle was speaking,
Absolutely,
and they're doing
yeah.
some great work. And then I'm sourcing like proper cider fruit, but I'm
Right.
not completely heritage. Like I'm trying to bridge this
you're
gap
kinda in
here,
between, yeah.
and so like I appreciate both sides of it.
Oh, yeah,
but
for sure.
So do we in that, but there's a very large divide between some of these things, but it's culminating together. That's
Yeah, but I thought
another
it was
point of
really
this.
valuable because obviously people are they love the apples. They want that to shine through, and I think that's is definitely important. And the value of a good cider is in the apples.
Yeah.
Then there's also the sense of trying to get people that are beer drinkers, wine drinkers, to open up and try cider. So I think it was that for me was really interesting. I like both sides, obviously. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this if we only liked one subset, but I think it was really nice to kind of see both perspectives and to try to kind of find the middle ground between the two
Yeah.
is always kind of the ultimate goal there.
Right.
Yeah, and I think just for the consumer to understand the spectrum of it, because a lot of the talk that was going on was like cans and like the kind of
sure.
packaging and presenting
How
it
you
more like
present
a
the
craft
product, right?
beer, but in all reality, we do have these orchard-based ciders that are making they're wines.
Yeah,
I mean, they're
of course.
very like more similar to fine wines than they are anything else, and so just I think for the consumer to be aware that we have this spectrum, and the price point's going to vary.
Of course.
Flavors are going to vary, but both I've enjoyed across the board, and
Yeah, I've
I think
enjoyed a cheap
ultimately,
cider, I've enjoyed expensive cider.
Yeah, so I think
Single varietal, modern
Yeah.
cider, it doesn't really matter.
yeah,
You
it's
can
just
find
fun
what
to
you
be.
like,
Yeah, and I
It's
think
just like beer. I can enjoy a sour, and then I can turn around and I'll drink a
Exactly.
porter or a stout, and I will, run the spectrum.
And then if I'm
Yeah.
just trying to get after it, I'm drinking some Coors Light or something.
yeah,
No shame.
exactly.
As you see, I got a little Lagunitas here.
yeah, and nothing against
No
that,
shame.
but
No shame.
Yeah, no, I'm more of a Miller like guy.
I'm a
Miller Lite guy.
Milwaukee guy.
Wait, are you a Packers fan? I guess
Of course I am.
Alright.
That's why
burning
this
it.
year, so I grew up a Cubs fan. I only had WGN as a kid
Okay.
up north there.
Please don't say you're. Don't go to the Brewers, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Come on. That's all right, fair enough.
Brewers, Packers.
Yeah,
we got a
Wrigley
Packers
North.
fan
So
on
now
the
that I'm
camera.
migrating down this way, we'll see how
Oh,
that
yeah, you're gonna
lands.
transition,
I'm still repping my Wisconsin hat.
Yeah,
so I
that's
don't
all
know.
right. That's fair enough.
Yo, it's my roots.
Hey, you're a
like-
Wisconsin guy.
Yeah, but I'm an urban, like
Yeah.
a cool
Yeah, you're-
Wisconsinite, right? I don't know.
Is there
The
an
beard,
actual-
it's the beard, right? Is that how-
Callie Mike asked if you're single.
Yeah, very, very, very much.
Callie Mikey, keep your
Where's
hands
he
off
at?
Hey,
Ally.
he's living at my apartment.
Asking for a
right
friend.
now. He's killing it out there.
Mikey finds you very attractive.
Thanks,
Mikey,
man.
keep your hands to yourself, my friend.
Mikey's from this area. He's living at.
Oh, he's
where I-
in town?
No, he's
No,
in
he
he's
lives-
in Nashville.
he lives
with
in
me right
Nolan,
now.
Oh, Cali, what? He's from California?
Yeah, there's
Or what,
a
he's
lot.
just this
He
kind of like.
moves all over the place. Yeah.
Kelly Mike, so they call him Kelly Mike.
They call him
Mike, I
Kelly
wish you were
Mike.
here to explain that, but,
Oh, Kelly Mike.
but he wants to change his name to Kelly Mike because he's been Australian Mike.
For a
So,
while,
Dang.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to meet you, Mike.
hi Christine, by the way.
Oh,
Christine
Christine's
just
there
said that.
too. They're probably both pouring over the
Yeah.
phone right now.
That's not my mom, is it?
No. Mom's like, oh, he's so
If
cute.
anyone's mom's out there, hi mom.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess, hey, real
Well,
quick.
so if it was supposed to be at 9 a.m. this morning, I had my grandma was going to create an Instagram account to follow along, and now all this shit came down.
We're
Yeah.
terrible
Well, the
human
good thing
beings,
is this
apparently.
video gets saved.
This
though.
just
Okay,
in. This just in. We're terrible human beings.
Wow. So yeah, we kind of messed up the timing on meeting with him, but hey, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah.
That's life. We roll with it. Like I said, anyone have any questions for Alec just off the bat? Anybody on right now?
Yeah, if
'Cause
anyone doesn't have questions, I'll ask.
just
really
to kind
random
of
stuff,
review
certainly.
really
Yeah, so-
quick, he's got Forward Cider, which is a new cidery. I guess
So it's going to be in
yeah,
Ravenswood. I'm going to be opening
Ravenswood.
up in about. So I got my federal permits 2 days ago,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be in the Ravenswood neighborhood. I'm going to be producing dry tannic cider. I'm not going to add any sulfites, minimal intervention. All barrel aged product. And then in 375 milliliter bottles and on draft. So
Okay,
I'll be
sure.
self-distributing and kind of pounding the pavement and
Gotcha.
seeing
Yeah,
see what happens in
doing
Chicago.
doing the good
All
Lord's
right,
work.
I need Mikey on board.
Yeah,
Can
hold
I
on.
hire
He
you?
got a question. He said, if
You wanna be a partner, man?
He goes, if you got married, will you have an open cider bar? If so, what would you serve?
Oh, I like that
Oh,
question.
I like that. I was going to say, what's your favorite
I
cider?
like
so
that.
I think those two kind of.
Well,
work.
actually,
Coexist.
oddly enough, like this is not. I mean,
Hey, Cider at Night, what's up?
kind of coincidental, but Arlo has been a go-to of mine for a few years now.
Really?
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
And-
so it's
and I
just
like the
dry.
can
It's,
design.
yeah, it's great. Shakespeare does great work.
You can show them a little bit if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And is there
I'll
anything-
give them a plug.
Is
They're
there
great
anything-
people.
Did you try anything this week that you have not had before? Because Trevor and I, we did the cider share and some of those things, and we got
Oh,
to try
yeah.
stuff that we have definitely never
Yeah,
tasted. So anything that you had this week that you have not?
Yeah,
had
the
before?
one that pops out and stands out in my mind was this Perry from Luxembourg.
Oh, sure.
So the cool thing is, like, I'm so envious and jealous of what the French and the Europeans have.
they have
I mean, that's why
access to-
I'm importing the
Right.
fruit, but a very high tannic fruit, and
Yeah,
that's
stuff
just
we
what
would
I
never be able to
enjoy.
get here,
It
yeah.
really clears the palate. It pairs so well with food. So that Perry was high tannin, and it had some residual sugar to even balance that
Sure.
out, which was
A couple grams left.
yeah,
probably,
it was really nice. But to answer Kaylee Mike. Is that
Kelly
what-
Mike?
Yeah,
It's
Kaylee
Kelly,
Mike.
Mike.
It's called Mikey,
Open
yeah.
bar, certainly, yeah.
Oh, of course,
I will
why not?
most definitely have an open cider bar at my wedding. And
I will as
what
well,
I will
Christine,
have,
so
but it goes
we'll
back
do
to
that.
this because I know that everyone's not a cider maker. And if they are, they don't all have the palate or
Yeah.
the interest of the cider that I like. So I'll certainly have some tannic cider on, dry tannic cider that I'll enjoy that evening. But I'll have a spectrum. I'll have some modern cider on, probably, hopefully from Graft and some. Some friends throwing in on the pool.
We're gonna have to cut 'em
All right,
off.
so Love My Critters says
Oh.
that her camel loves cider.
Her what?
And her zebra. Is this real? Please comment. if
Wait,
that's
you have
real.
a camera?
Camel and a zebra that drinks
How much
cider.
you so I can like direct send some maybe because I feel like I could make that.
Please send videos.
Yeah,
Not
please
only
send that video.
but I can direct ship possibly. I don't
Yeah.
know the laws, but
Hey, Steady Eddie, what's up?
if
How
they
you
want
doing?
good cider.
Yeti?
Steady Eddie was saying hi.
I will say anyone's name if they say hi. I'll say
I
it back.
said, Callie said hi, Steady Eddie.
So I wonder how many so I'll only be distributing in the Chicago market.
Sure.
Or actually, so I take that back.
Okay, well.
DC.
He's changing his mind.
DC.
Live.
So going back to this, this cider share that we had,
Yeah.
the opening ceremony. So Ancho down in DC.
Hi, Christine.
Doing great work. But they just started distributing up to this area, and they need me to pick up a few kegs to send back, empty kegs,
Right.
to send back down. And they said, Sam said, if I do this for him, then I can, I'll ship while I'm doing this. Then I'll ship some cider down to DC.
okay, cool.
So I'll get some product down to the Mid Atlantic, just there. But I wonder how many of these viewers are in the Chicago area. I mean, it's a large market, but it would be nice to be able to share some of my product with the viewers. So,
Yeah, sure.
oh, I got this guy right
Bring
here.
it to Rockford.
Yeah, bring it.
Yeah, Rockford. Yeah.
We got Kyle. Give Kyle
Give Kyle behind
behind
the camera.
right now.
He deserves it.
Yeah, so yeah, love my critters. We will definitely check that out. She said check out my Instagram. So
Love My Critters.
That's the.
Are we plugging Love My Critters
That's
right
like-
now?
yeah.
Are they a
Sweet.
sponsor of the show?
and Mikey says I'll buy cider from you, winky face, because he is.
Damn, dude, this guy.
Yeah.
This is the hardest I've been hit on, I think, maybe ever.
Yeah,
but I'm not hating it.
Yeah, no.
I don't swing that way by any.
Hey,
Like,
that's
not
fine.
everything.
No, it's
again-
fine.
It's fine, but it's a
But it's
compliment.
flattering.
Yeah.
It is. It's
What
very
the
flattering.
worst insult is when someone calls Nolan attractive and me ugly.
yeah. Then it just comes down to
"Wait, what?"
personality at that point. So.
No, then I just tell them they're really drunk and they're saying double. And I'm like, oh, you're just messed up. But hey, Aaron, how you doing? But yeah, so
So
Exciting,
tomorrow, the Cider Summit.
Yes, Cider Summit.
So that's
you
another.
pouring?
So I'll be volunteering
Yeah,
from 8
volunteering.
till like noon. So I think it starts at like 11 or something.
Yeah.
If anyone's
11.
around, say hi.
Come down to
all of
Navy
us.
Pier. Certainly say hi. I'll have like maybe I'll keep that 4 ounces. Like
Yeah, maybe we'll.
yeah, maybe I can taste somebody
Yeah.
on it.
Put in a
We
little
got 4
syringe.
ounces. Yeah.
We're gonna make a little party. Right? We're gonna have a little party.
well, that's I'm done drinking. So
But-
maybe I just split the 4 ounces.
But a fun thing, and so I had been waiting for Virginia, a nice sized market, Richmond and Virginia at large, really some nice producers, and same New York. But we look at Illinois, and it's just not. It's developing, but I don't know what. I mean, breweries are big, in the Midwest,
especially
and
in
Michigan.
Chicago,
The
yeah.
agriculture is, there's a lot of orchards out
Yeah.
there, and Wisconsin too. But it kind of baffles me that in a market this size, that it's it's Ayers, it's Ripey,
Yeah.
And Northman again. It's a cider bar, but they're doing great work.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
I'm gonna pop in, and there's not many. Oh, and then that one out in Gary, I met them. Forgotten Orchard.
Or no, not Forgotten Orchard. Man, that makes me sound really stupid.
I'll
Sorry,
put him on
guys.
the spot.
Yeah,
Put
yeah,
them
I
right on
did.
the spot.
I met them. They're great cider.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Should
Yeah,
write him a
absolutely.
note so we can look at it.
yeah. That's
wanna-
awful, man. But
No, they were fantastic.
yeah, they were
and their
right.
stuff
And they're
was
right in Gary,
absolutely-
and they're going to be distributing. They're about to launch as well. So,
So you guys gonna arm wrestle for territory? Or?
yeah, dude, I see them out on the streets, and it's just.
How are you with with large wooden
All right,
sticks
sorry,
as a
Christine.
weapon?
Christine said, "I wish I could go to Cider Summit."
Oh, this
that's
is just depressing.
Wow,
now.
it's just straight to the heart.
All right,
Well, they do have
go
them.
buy-
Though. They have on what the West Coast.
Well, no,
the
she's
East-
in Nashville right now.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
what she can do, you can go buy something on Amazon to make yourself feel better.
Christine,
just a
come
little
up to
retail
Chicago and we'll do a
therapy.
cider tasting at my house. We're inviting
Yeah, I'll bring
Alec.
some
I'll
cider
bring some
around.
cider,
Yeah.
and
I
then
would
we'll
enjoy them.
we'll get some cheese curds, of course. Too.
Yeah,
because if we're
yeah,
doing that,
it's-
what are we doing if we're
So,
not doing cheese curds?
and here's, I guess, another that kind of leads me to the discussion of.
Like he said, you guys should arm wrestle. All right,
Whoa,
stop getting
whoa.
your jollies.
And you guys should get sweatier. You guys should run up and down a little bit.
We're gonna
so
pop
you
our
get
shirts off.
sweatier. Yeah, you guys look. The color off the shirts is too reflective. I think you're gonna have to pop the
Oh
top.
my god.
Yeah.
Mike,
Follow me on Instagram.
well, you'll
Yeah,
meet Mikey
Forward
eventually.
Cider.
You'll
No,
definitely,
you'll meet Mike. You'll meet Mike.
Yeah, definitely follow Forward Cider though.
Let me get that. Hold on, let's get that right there. There's a phone number on there. I'm gonna send it. Oh no!
We lost everybody.
No.
This is what happens when you have live video. You get the drunkards.
I got it, Kyle. I got it.
Oh my lord.
Guys, there's every form of technical difficulty you can assume has been.
That's what you want for live videos.
But hold on, I had to cover up the phone number. I don't want Mikey like blowing this guy up right now.
Mikey just said crying faces, but
Oh, it's a little backward. All right.
yeah, it's all right.
No, but so I guess the conversation is just a lack of. I know that a lot of like Michigan producers are distributed
Yes,
locally,
right.
and it's a large market, so we're getting some European. I mean, there's a good offerings, I suppose,
Sure.
that you can find in Chicago, but I was surprised that there wasn't.
Fall
There
asleep.
weren't more, because
Right.
I was talking to the gentleman from Ripey, not Charlie, but his seller hand.
Yeah, yep.
And there's like he said like 67 breweries in
Yeah.
the Chicago area.
Oh yeah, it's one of the most dense.
There's
I think it
under-
is the most dense now.
Yeah.
This is like the best brewery city.
So,
I believe.
I
Someone
would-
said, guys. Someone said it.
Blasphemy to
And I
other
wonder
areas.
where this why cider hasn't. It's growing, of course, but in a city this large
Right.
with this many options.
There's still a lot of share to be
Why?
had.
Yeah, there's a lot of share, but I mean, the consumer audit. I think maybe just educating the consumers
Yeah.
large, but also like that it's not all high residual sweetness, and it's not all heritage, but just being able to get cider in front of individuals, I think
Yeah.
is probably the most important.
Yeah,
part.
I mean that's part of our job, part of
Yeah.
your job,
Well,
part
yeah,
of
exactly.
anybody in the
Yeah.
cider industry's
Yeah.
job to teach. So anyone here who thinks cider's just really sweet still, obviously that's not true. Something with even zero sugar can have a sense of sweetness, even if it's not. So that's also a really
So,
interesting thing.
Yeah, that
people
kind of
don't
plays it.
realize.
So malolactic fermentation is really important to the product I'm producing. Even though I don't have high acidity, it helps round out and create a mouthfeel without having that sweetness.
Sure.
So there's no need for high residual. Well, I suppose the product I'm producing, there's no need for high residual sweetness,
Right.
and that's not what I'm trying to achieve. And I think like my target consumer in many ways is one that's conscious consumer that's out and seeking something that we all know alcohol is not the most it's not health centric, but it
Yeah,
can be
sure.
healthier.
Yeah,
right?
healthiher, right?
It's a
yeah.
part of
And
a
so
balanced
30
diet.
So you
yeah,
get
yeah,
a
like
triple IPA,
the antioxidants,
triple IPA,
like-
hazy,
Yeah,
triple
no,
IPA,
right.
just
No, that's a great point,
calorically
though.
and
I think it's like 1,000 calories in one of those.
it's a lot. Yeah. Oh, we were looking the other day. It's like I was looking at drank 3 like hazy IPAs. Oh man, that
And the sugar content. I mean,
oh, man.
Had a lot
come
of
on. I couldn't. Kaylee, Mike probably would be feeling a little different about me
Yeah.
if I was drinking. It's all forward cider.
That's hilarious. That's some good
Oh
stuff.
my god, that's so funny. But yeah, I guess anybody else have any other questions for Alec? We're gonna wrap this up because I think we might be able to try to get a little
Cider
bit more,
share.
a little cider share action going on. But
I mean, from our perspective, at
Give me
least,
another
CiderScene,
minute.
I mean, we want to do this a little bit more. We're going to be doing a lot more live video. We just want to be able to engage quite a bit more. Talk to people that are in the industry and different perspectives.
I think that's kind of like what this week is all about too. I mean, it's all industry individuals, but I think it's important that we are educating the consumers and just promoting cider, that there is a spectrum here. But if you're interested, if you're an alcoholic, if you're drinking alcohol, then
I think you're being hit on again. Steady Eddie says, "How can I get in touch with the guy in glasses?" Man, you are just the hot commodity tonight.
Dang,
info
no
at
love for the twins?
forwardcider.com.
He goes, "Are you guys, Mikey? Are you going out tonight, painting the town red?" I don't think Alec's going out, man. He's a little tired from all the cider. Hey, Red
long
Bee Cider,
week,
what's up?
But I could be persuaded.
Yeah, I mean, we're great persuaders. So we'll see what we can do.
We'll have my fiance's coming out. We'll have her arm wrestling.
Yeah.
I guess
So
it's a
you
lot
guys
of arm wrestling.
So there's cider events going on tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
presume. So maybe
There's
I will.
plenty. We're doing, there's a couple.
It's one of
Hey,
those-
Red Bee Cider. Who do we got? Katie
there
or
we
Charlie?
go.
Katie or Charlie?
Or the child, perhaps the baby.
Yes.
is
Oh, I just get. Eddie's like, no, we're just talking like cider talk, not like hitting on you. I said, okay.
Sorry. Whoa.
Oh, so
Hey,
yeah,
bring
info,
it back to reality.
So
There
I
we
have
go. Bring it back to reality.
Instagram and Facebook. You can reach me at, and then info at forwardcider.com.
Yeah.
That would be the best bet, or my personal account at Alec
personal
Ferments.
account.
But all of those things, I hope to just spread the word of Forward Cider, and that's how you can reach me.
And we'll share a pic after this and just post on Instagram. And just
Oh,
put
yeah,
a
Steady
little-
Eddie is a cider maker from the UK.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. So
Hello,
yeah.
Steady
Oh,
Eddie.
that's kind of I missed this whole thing. So
Yeah.
after
There's
a
a lot of other stuff
I want to
going
speak
on.
on the UK because I gained a lot of inspiration from that part of the world. So in October, when I moved back from Hudson Valley and from Graft, I stayed at Ross Cider out in Hereford
yeah.
for 10 days,
Okay, yeah.
and that was an incredible experience, staying out on the orchard and using these proper cider apples that I had sourced. Going back to it, they just hold the qualities that dessert and culinary fruit don't have.
Right, of course.
And so it's interesting because they've been using that type of apples for
Ages.
forever. Yeah,
Which
and
is
going-
strange because us, we look at it like it's a holy grail.
Yeah,
It's like,
and
oh,
they've
we've been
doing-
using that for
and
hundreds
so,
of years.
And like Hawk Cider out of London, they're kind of going they're using dessert and culinary or a lot, like they have a spectrum of ciders,
Sure.
but they're using some acidity because it's new to their
Right, they're going,
their palate. So
What
it's
is
like
this?
it's so like worlds away, and they're quite different. But the UK is doing phenomenal work, and I'm envious of just being able to have that draft list
Yeah,
and being
right.
able to access cider
yeah,
like
the
that.
amount of quality ciders is pretty nuts. I mean, here obviously things are getting that way, but it's just crazy. There, everyone's got like the best of the best product.
Yeah, and a lot of it, and so they still have those mass producers that are going, and that's why the thing is like, so I don't know if cider is decreasing there. I don't have the stats there, but I do know that there's a surplus of these apples
Sure.
in
Yeah,
England and in France that
You're
allows
snatching
me.
them all up.
Yeah, well, bring it. I'll pile them on, and I appreciate that.
Hey,
So.
Mikey said, do you ever try any Australian ciders?
So I have the ones that I've had, and I can't name the brands off the top of my head, but I have had them. The ones that I had that are imported into the U.S.
Yeah.
are they're really the residual sweetness on them are quite high.
Yeah, I think
and
they,
they're
I
like
think they
fruited
tend to like
stuff.
Yeah,
they
right.
tend to like the.
It's kind of a little
the
more
sweeter
Americanized, I
stuff.
guess you can call it
certainly.
modernized.
Yeah. Like that Reckoning brand. I think
Yeah,
they're out of.
yeah.
They're not out of Australia. They're somewhere down there. I think New Zealand, somewhere, or maybe Swiss.
Yeah. We don't even
Swiss,
want to.
I
I
think.
don't even want to do geography right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
It's like,
Oh, yeah,
But-
put a map up there. I am lost, literally.
But I think, that's kind of a neat conversation. We're talking about terroir in the
Yeah.
future,
Oh,
or
yes.
not in the future, but just like how apples differ, like the same variety grown in Australia compared to the UK, compared to Milwaukee, compared to across the board. So
Yeah, so for people, terroir is really like, let's say regional or like from an area, so you can taste the
Tasting the land.
taste the land,
Yeah,
so to
that's
speak.
it.
Yeah.
It's very common conversation in wine. Obviously, that's a huge conversation in wine,
The
and obviously
terroir.
other food items as well.
Yeah.
different food items, like say
Exactly.
Mushrooms or something might have.
Oh, when you go to
different flavors
Asheville,
and
North Carolina, man, that's the lifestyle.
yeah,
down there.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, everything tastes local, and I don't know what that is, but it's like
Yeah,
Asheville,
it's an
that's-
experience,
yeah,
right? And
exactly.
so that's kind of what I want to to present with with my brand is just throughout the boat, like having wax on the bottles and having a little thicker. So it's hard to really capture the texture of the labels there, but ultimately just the thickness, and that's what Graft had done a good job at. They're just creating an experience, and I think that's important because there's a lot of there's a lot of brands out there, and it's a noisy market, but ultimately, if people can sit down and enjoy just my product and other, I just want to create that experience essentially. And so, taking a different approach by sourcing this fruit from overseas and going completely dry with it, and then just the packaging itself. I think.
Yeah, the packaging is very, very attractive. I know you kind of posted that, and everyone had really good things to say about it.
Yeah. And there were 2 cideries that kind of were like, well, you might run into like production issues
or waxing or something.
Yeah,
like
waxing.
That. Yeah,
but
waxing's a little bit.
You got to understand. So I'm 26 years old, and I don't have a wife or kids.
Oh, now they know everything.
Yeah, but
ASL.
No, this is all. This is all leading up. But this is what I'm dedicated to. So if I need to wax more bottles because I think the consumer will enjoy this, then that's what I'm going to do.
No, I think
it's all about the little
there's
human
a couple,
touch.
Yeah, I think like that's my approach.
There's a couple cans that are textured, which is not necessarily everyone makes like textured cans, but for some reason labels. Labels.
Yeah.
But the texture really does add.
Well, the matte cans though too, they do have that feel.
But it just adds such an interesting element of the experience because now I'm really like looking more at my hand as I drink it because I think once you look at it on the shelf, that's a part of the experience. When you pick it up, that's a part of the experience. But when you're drinking it, you're tasting it. But I really don't revisit the label other than to maybe read some of the nutritional information.
Yeah.
But I think it really, ties you to the product a little bit more. So anything you can do in that space, like the wax, I think that's something. It's just
it just adds another element and more like depth.
It's a part of
what
your
I'm doing, and that's just,
every aspect of it has to have that thought process. It can't just slap a can with a good product. You can't just have a bad product with a great can. You got to tie it all together.
And my approach to this is just trying to. It's more. And one of the discussions was that earlier is just having cider at the table and more of creating this kind of just sit down, just like let's appreciate this. And so it's a little on the higher end, but like I said, I want to bridge heritage with modern cider.
I could see a family with this on the table.
Yeah, exactly.
I got it in my mind's eye right now.
That's the intention of it.
Well, hey Eddie, we'll definitely connect you with Alex. He said he really likes your design. He wants to talk a little bit more about that. He's got some other insights. So we'll definitely connect you guys.
And again, it's at forwardcider.com.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll take a picture, we'll share that information, whatever he wants to share.
It'll be on our story.
I mean, he told you age, that he doesn't have a wife or children.
Yeah,
so you know everything about this guy now.
Yeah.
He's from Wisconsin.
I'm very available.
So anyone out there who likes cider.
Very good. Well, we appreciate the time.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
We'll do some other stuff with you, and
we're not done with you.
No, it's cool having. I mean, we're in Chicago. We're neighbors at this point, and that's going to be fun to just promote cider and just the what cider can be, and just hopefully create exposure and awareness for cider.
Coordinated events, you got a
you
couple on
CiderCon.
You got the twins.
100%.
Yeah.
Mikey says I appreciate you also.
But it's also
Mikey,
Kyle,
you stole the show. I'm sorry, my friend.
Give Kyle is also part of the experience they're going to be having with your cider. At some point, so, it's a whole package. Absolutely.
Oh, very good.
I appreciate it, guys.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thanks for tuning in. This video will be saved too, so whoever sees it after the fact, awesome. And thanks.
This is the past and this is the future. Oh my God. I don't know what to think right now.
Cheers.
X-Men, some sort of Days of Future.